Hey review family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, the review guy reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I'm going to be covering the new Symbolik record entitled Emergence. New record from this California tech death band that formed around the turn of the last decade. This is their first studio-length album. They had dropped an EP, but up until this point, they had not had a full project under their belt. Now, looking into the label they're attached to, the Artisan Era, that can give you a good indication of what you are in for, especially considering that leading into this I called them a tech death band. The Artisan Era is by far one of my favorite labels. They have had records on my end-year list up until this point every single year, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, because I really enjoy their blending of technicality with futurism and hypermelodicism, black metal, death metal. They take a very blackened approach to their technicality. Oftentimes their production feels very thick and layered, and Symbolik basically captured every type of thing that I think an Artisan Era record should have to make it good, and just a tech death record in general, considering that it's only 39 minutes long. And right off the bat, a lot of tech death releases, I've said this before, a lot of people agree with this, some don't, can be long-winded. They push for 50 plus minutes of material and they end up becoming long-winded and they become overwrought, and they can't really justify their length as they're pushing these tracks into way more of a longer territory than they ever should have been. On paper, a lot of the instrumentation here on this Symbolik record can blend in a lot with the Artisan Era bands, but I think that it is on a high tier considering it all feels like it's locked in this gracious dance. The layered screams and the layered growls contrast nicely to the very fast technical playing that feels very futuristic, that feels very alien, it feels very space inspired, or at least technologically inspired, and it just feels like the vocals are tugging one way and the compositions are tugging another way, and it just feels like they are in this battle. Not so much that they are working together just to create an auditory experience, but it more so feels like it's showing you imagery, it's telling a story through the instrumentation, which generally feels like a twisting labyrinth, different riffs flying from all directions. The transitional work on this record is pretty phenomenal. Track number 3, A Tyranny and Decay, really showcases this, and it's one of my favorite tracks when it slides into that more melodic bit, but it still has an energy that's hard to put your finger on, even though it is generally quieter and a little bit more low-key than what's on the rest of the record. They still tie it up nicely to where it feels cohesive with the last passage that came before it, but it also feels like its own entity, and that's something that I have to compliment this record for. This record doesn't necessarily stay in one place for too long. It's constantly shifting, but those shifts feel logical. It's like a link that strings it all together very nicely. And whereas a lot of technical death metal that sometimes I won't necessarily get a lot out of, that just goes so overboard, so over the top, Rings of Saturn comes to mind. I do enjoy their music, but just the really overblown technical death metal, like alien core type music, a lot of times I won't get a lot of replay value out of. But here on this Symbolik record, they feel like they control everything. It feels like some very focused songwriting that is very straight to the point, and they understand what they are working with. They aren't feeling like they're unhinged. They're not feeling like they're about to go off the edge. They feel very tied in, and I do enjoy that. It still feels chaotic in one way or another, but it feels chaotic in more of a measured way, like they genuinely understand the record that they are wanting to create. And it is no longer no shorter than it needs to be. The length is fantastic, and I've listened to this record over and over and over, and for the most part, there's not any dull moments that don't feel as sharp as some of these stronger tracks. There are certainly tracks that stand out more than the others. I really like track 1. Track 5 is probably my favorite. And I obviously mentioned A Tyranny and Decay, which has some of the best transitional work on the record. Even though this record is short, it feels like a journey in and of itself, and if you like the very low, bassy type sound of Artisan Era with that technical death metal flair, check it out. It has a lot of layered vocals, some great production style, some very focused songwriting, and overall I'm really enjoying this record. I would say it is my favorite release that I've heard from the Artisan Era this year, and I just look forward to seeing what the band can do going from here, because this is such a great record. I don't really see how they're going to improve on it, and at this point I wouldn't even mind if they just did the same thing again. I'm going to be giving this album an 8 out of 10, And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Symbolik record, Emergence? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss the record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morse, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying,
maybe we could both explore.